I'm over my husband's sleep schedule. To start, I love my husband greatly. We've been together for 15 years. He's the sole provider and we very much had a default provider-parent dynamic. Currently I'm 6 months pregnant with our third child. My husband liked to wake up very early 4 a.m. to have time to himself before he begins his work day. Because of this, he goes to bed early but has bad habits that often prevent him from getting a good night's sleep. He drinks multiple energy drinks daily and doom scrolls right before bed. Often this means he's passing out at 7 p.m. yet still complains about how tired he is throughout the day. He leaves me to put the house to sleep, locking doors, turning things off, getting kids ready for bed. We have argued about this for years, but he throws the "I get up very early" in my face often. He also snores, so a few times during the night I'm awakened by this and tell him to roll over. This came to a head this past Friday, when he and the kids went to snuggle in bed. They came out 20 minutes later. As Dad had fallen asleep, it was 8:15 on a Friday night. We don't get alone time in the evening because he's asleep before the kids are. It's quite frustrating. I'm left to do my thing in the evening. It's lonely to be in a relationship and spend my evenings alone. I'm done. I'm not asking him to spend time with me anymore or sleeping with him. I now sleep on the couch and things have been quiet between us for the past few days. I'm not going to contribute to him feeling tired all the time by waking him. If he wants me to come back to bed, he'll address the snoring. If he wants to spend time with me, he'll make an effort to stay up and do so. I know he won't. And I know he's feeling guilty. His pregnant wife is sleeping on the couch. I don't care. 2 weeks ago I asked him out to dinner. Time is running out for us to get alone time. He said, "Ooh, I'm too tired." I'm frustrated and done being available. I'm sure part of this is pregnancy hormones. This has been an issue for us for years. This conversation isn't new. I'm at a loss here. I know he works very hard and the pressure of being the sole provider is real. He is more than a paycheck though, and I'm having trouble getting through to him that I require more than money in this relationship. Edit: I didn't really expect this to go nuts. And I can't respond to everyone, and so here goes. I don't think it's sleep apnea. After doing hours of reading, the snoring isn't the same. It's not a constant loud, it more like a loud grumble that wakes me up and then he's quiet snoring again. I'm not leaving my husband over this. Get real. I won't throw away a marriage and make myself a single mother because of this. We will work it out and overcome. I'm very grateful to him. Everything I have is because of him. We make each other better people. He isn't a deadbeat father. He's involved in the kids' morning routine. He's the kind of man who wakes up early Saturday morning and gets the kitchen clean and laundry started before I even get up with the kids. For the dudes who messaged me asking if I wanted to chat with them, that's a little weird. Is this a thing? Men hitting on random Reddit women? I could be ugly for all you know. Thank you for all the opinions and viewpoints. It's given me some clarity. The amount of people telling me to leave this deadbeat has given me a bit of perspective of just how important it is to work on a relationship instead of abandoning it. Stories number 2. How do I create quality time? Fun memories for my kiddo. Advice needed. I feel like this is a weird one for this thread, but I have been listening since the show started. I read a lot of stories on here and I just feel safe in this community. For the past few months I have been realizing that I didn't have a typical childhood like a lot of others. In sure, my parents owned a store and when I wasn't at school, my days were mostly spent sitting under a table reading for hours while they worked. We owned bikes, but rarely rode them. If never participated in extracurricular activities. My brother relied on other kids' parents to take him to footy, otherwise he wouldn't have either. We didn't go on walks or get ice cream. Man, the only time we really spent quality time together was for birthdays. Otherwise it was just me and my folks. I'm a single mom to my nearly 5-year-old other parent not involved, and our weekends are mostly her playing by herself while I clean the house, and I might play with her for a few hours or have a movie night. I'm only realizing recently that I might be defaulting to how I was raised and not spending a lot of quality time with her, and I really want to change that and bring more laughter and joy to our relationship and home. What are some activities, fun memories, quality time moments that you do with your kids or remember growing up? From the park to milkshakes to cooking to local events, the big things and especially the tiny little things. I want to know it all, please. Stories number 3. 28F left my husband 36 meters for almost cheating. How do I know if I can trust him? Advice needed. I 28F left my husband 36 meters back in January. We were married for 3 years and separated briefly in 2023. After 6 months of couples therapy and another 6 months of individual therapy, I realized that we were caught in a loop and there was nothing I could do to change that. He would border on infidelity, clearly established boundaries were crossed. Get caught, beg for forgiveness, make changes, then go back to old habits. We have a child together, 2.5 FN to children that I raised for years for FN and 10M. We co-own a home that I live in and he moved into his family home. Recently I received a diagnosis for CPSTD. I also lost a friend to suicide and got suspended from work. My friends were worried as I have suicidal thoughts and a history of self-harm, so we all agreed it would be best to stay with my ex-husband to keep me safe and to keep everyone from worrying. I've been here for days now and I really missed my family. I'm considering getting back together with my husband, but I am really worried. He has narcissistic tendencies according to psychological evaluation, and I'm not sure if he is capable of change. I felt very humiliated by his actions and things he said about me, and I'm still hurt by it. I am scared that it will happen again and I will be splitting up our family for the 3rd time. I haven't dated anyone or been interested in dating. For the past 9 months I have been concentrating on my daughter's mental health and renovating the marital home so I can sell it. I also am scared that I won't be able to recognize and steer clear of red flags. I want to make the best decision for myself and my family, but it's not easy and I'm not sure I can trust him. If anyone else been through something similar, let me know how you made your decision. Stories number 4. This podcast gave me the courage to leave an abusive relationship. I'm out, please don't judge or tell me I'm stupid for staying. There were reasons. I 25F had been with my ex 32 meters for 6 years. He cheated on me verbally, physically and emotionally abused me. He didn't have a job and was an alcoholic. I was deep into the cycle of manipulation. I believe he was schizophrenic and had many narcissistic traits. Morgan talks about people so kindly and empathetically. It felt like every time I listened to her it made me question how he treated me. It felt like the illusion was being broken. I honestly can't think of any specific examples off the top of my head. I just remember the physical feeling of a gut punch. When she would react to a relationship that was nowhere near as bad as my circumstance, she would be outraged, telling op to break up with their partner for how they were being treated. She talked about how amazing her relationship with Justin is and how well he treats her. I would literally sob because I was so envious and desperately wanted that for myself. Ultimately, I felt like the THT folks are almost guardian angel type of people. In my mind, a guiding light towards a better life. Being so isolated and having nobody to talk to, it truly felt like they were my support. Thanks for reading, and I hope, if anyone else who is in a relationship even half as bad as mine can find the strength to leave, you deserve it. Stories number 5. I have 23 recently decided on a whim to get back with my long-term boyfriend 24 meters. We were high school sweethearts and grew apart when he left for his career. He travels most days out of the year for work and long distance played a major role. My next relationship was a narcissist and a liar, but I feel like I haven't had much life experience dating in general. So it comforts me to know he still sees a future with me, even somewhat trying to be friends in and off over the years. Long story short, he wants me to assure him that I won't hurt him again. But I just feel like deep down I may end up hurting him. He has expressed how he is dating to marry and wants me to be his wife. That freaks me out a bit as I feel lots of pressure and I feel like the stakes are high. I think I got back with him for security purposes. He's all I've ever known and also makes lots of money. So I never want for anything at the same time. I think still wanting to experiment. I think I might be intercourseal but have never been with a girl. And I haven't really been single as an adult except for 1 year 2020. Should I stick it out with him? And if I do come across someone, break up with him? Or would it be wrong to just stay with him and maybe get it off my checklist? I really do have feelings for him, which is why I don't want to hurt him. But I don't know how he would feel if he found out. Stories number 6. I don't want to have another baby but my partner does. Advice needed. I 25F don't want another baby but my partner 24 meters does. My partner and I have been together since we were 15. We have a daughter who is now 2.5 years old. My partner and I have discussed plans for a new baby, and how I really don't want to go through pregnancy, birth, and the newborn stage again, but has expressed how much he wants another baby. We have always discussed having two children, and after our first, if realized him just not cut out to be a good mother to more than one child. I'm always exhausted as it is. I just can't fathom how other women do it with multiple children. God sans really. I feel as though I won't be able to be the good mother I want to be, and am to just more than our daughter. Trigger warning, traumatic birth story and talk of cancer ahead. I didn't enjoy pregnancy. One, did I look like I was carrying triplets? Despite having one normal-sized baby inside me, I lived with constant heartburn, couldn't sleep. I had to finish up work at just 24 weeks pregnant, because I was exhausted and run down so much. I was worried for the health of myself and my baby. Birth was my literal nightmare. I still have flashbacks to the events that took place, and I just can't see myself doing it ever again. To try to make a long story short, I was induced due to decreased fetal movement. Induction at exactly 40 weeks pregnant began Thursday. I didn't give birth until Sunday morning at 1 a.m. My birth ended in an emergency C-section. Panic attacks, me passing out on the operating table. While doctors and my partner were scared I was going to die, I don't remember meeting my baby for the first time. In my mind, the first time I met my baby was the next morning, when the nurses brought her to me after a sleep. I lost 3 liters of blood during my C-section after birth. Before I could go home, I had 3 blood transfusions and 2 iron transfusions. My baby was perfectly healthy, though that's all that matters. I had my mom and my partner with me during birth, when my daughter was just 2 weeks old. So right in the midst of the newborn haze, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cervical cancer. My mom has now passed at age 46. After 1.5 years of fighting cancer. This was an extremely traumatic moment of my life. My mom, a single mother to myself and my brother 12 meters, was so sick. But I couldn't help her like I always promised her. I had a newborn to feed, to wake up to sometimes 5 times a night. I was grieving a living person and wasn't able to accept that she wouldn't be with us much longer. It also broke me that this life we planned, the non and granddaughter bond, they would have the help and guidance my mom would give me in motherhood, was all ripped apart from shitty cancer. I have had to grieve the loss of my only parent, all while still staying strong and being the best mother I could possibly be for my daughter. My partner is a hands-on father. He cooks, when it's his turn he cleans, he plays with our daughter. He's a great dad, everything I wished my father was. There's no doubt he would be amazing with another baby. We had a pregnancy scare with a false positive test, and it made me realize how truly terrified I was to have another baby. To see things from his perspective, though, whilst it is my body my choice. Who am I to tell him he can't have another child? Who am I to not give my daughter a sibling and long-life best friend? I feel selfish and cruel. I grew up in a big family surrounded by all my aunties and uncles and cousins. My partner didn't. He has 2 sisters, but didn't have any cousins. I can't help but think, if we don't have another baby, I'm also ridding my daughter from having the chance to ever having nieces and nephews in the future, or for my daughter's kids, my future grandkids, to have cousins like I always loved growing up. I just don't know what to do or how to feel. Is it wrong of me to not want a baby for myself, but I want another baby for my partner and my daughter? Stories number 7. Mom is constantly asking for money for trip, please help. I'm 20 and I make $70K a year after taxes. My mom is 49 and she is unemployed. So 3 months ago I gave her $400 because she crashed her car. I was not expecting her to pay me back and she did not pay me back. 2 months ago she told me that she wants to go to Egypt. I paid the half of the trip and I gave her $300. 2 weeks ago she asked me to pay for her Dubai trip and I gave her $1,300. And now she is telling me that she booked a flight for Turkey and she wants to travel and she doesn't want to sit at home. She asked me for $100 for her flight and rest she said she is covered by herself. I said no, and I don't have money, but actually I do have money, but I am tired of giving money. I told her that I also want to drive a nice car and buy nice things, but she knows that I rather like saving my money. I feel little guilt that I didn't give her money even I have money. Please help, what should I do? DTW, sorry for my English. Edit. I am male. Stories number 8. My husband's coworker tells their boss everything I post on social media. And it's causing problems. I use social media as an outlet since my in-person supports lack heavily. Some people call me an influencer and I do have a decent following on YouTube. My Instagram and Facebook are more private though for friends and family. I post to my Instagram story frequently anything from my children to workouts to cooking. I also share little bits and pieces of day-to-day life such as planning to return to school, being sick, going on trips. My husband got a job in a small town last year, so we moved from the city, which is all I've ever known. Husband, let's call him Jay, grew up in a small town. This town is more conservative than I'm used to, as I'm a more free-thinking leftist, some may call me. His boss, who's in his 60s, let's call him, and does not use social media that I am aware of. My husband works at a sports center which has a gym I use frequently. While he's not working practically daily, I have short conversations with his boss every time I go in the morning, and recently we were talking about his garden and me taking flowers from it to use in crafting instead of in just trashing them like he does every year. Now Jay, coworker, let's call him, has me on Facebook, but we don't speak and isn't good friends with him either, as it doesn't seem interested. It also seems that runs away every time he sees me at work or out and about in town. Yesterday, this is what I was told, and we're talking about in garden and him finishing it up, and I guess and mentioned to her that I will be taking flowers. It then mentions to that he thought I was sick, based on a story I had literally posted 10 minutes before this interaction happened between them that I had saw while at work. In the story I shared that I feel like someone has cursed me because I went from having a cold 2 weeks ago to then having the flu to now yesterday having a bad allergic reaction and could barely open my eyes. Now and approached Jay, who wasn't involved in this convo, and asked if I was sick, to which he replied no, and that I was 2 weeks ago, and it's brought up I posted that I was sick on social media. Jay then messages me about this because it's been a thing where is constantly telling and about what I share online. We'll get into that further down. I text back I never shared that with him and go look to see that I had viewed my story while he was working again. The story I shared 10 minutes previously. I say, it's weird, this is always happening. When gets home we talk about it more, and I decide to reach out to and ask about it. In my message to I say, hey, I'm not upset or anything, just curious about how my life gets brought up into convo with I find it funny, knows everything going on in my life without me telling him things. LOL, you get the gist. He responds back this morning, it depends on the context, really, like the being sick thing had brought up you picking up flowers, and I had just saw your story and mentioned I thought you were sick or were sick. Sorry, LOL. I respond back, hey, it's no problem at all, just curious is all, just find it funny. He knows everything and I don't even work there. I'd say our conversation was pleasant and I made sure he knew I wasn't upset, just curious. This sort of thing has been happening for months though, and it's my first time mentioning it. Things that have happened in the past are me sharing I'm planning on going back to school, as I have a huge Canadian savings for school for people not in Canada, and I'm not sure what to take. Then the next day and said someone mentioned you were planning on going back to school, what will you be doing, and that he forgot who mentioned it. I say, must have been as he's the only one who views my social media and Jay doesn't talk much about me at work. We proceed to have a convo about school and the rest. Other times me and Jay have gone on trips on his days off, and I post about it. And would text Jay, don't forget you have work in a few days. Jay has never been late or missed days, except once when he was sick, but that happened after this, and he called in. More have happened, but that's the point. All my interactions with him have been pleasant until this morning. I walk in and say, hey, I'm not sick, I was 2 weeks ago, which is why I wasn't coming in then. He responds, yeah, don't think I'm snooping on your social media to get all the info about you. I respond back, oh, I didn't think you were, I just realized. He cuts me off mid-sentence and says, don't get upset or snippy with it either, you share too much on social media and everyone sees everything, so it's not like a secret. Posting willy-nilly will cause problems. I tried to interject and say I wasn't upset at it, but he cut me off and just said, have a good workout. It sat beside the gym and actually felt like not working out because he sounded so harsh. And that's not an interaction I have had with him before. I head back to my car and call my mom, who says it sounds like it is a poop disturber, and to just remove him. I get home and talk with Jay about it, express how I was upset by the interaction, and he lets me talk it through and says it's okay. I ask him to please not tell anyone about me or our kids anymore. He agrees and says it's fine. I block An's girlfriend from seeing my stories and posts on social media. I share to my story that I'm taking a step back from posting and I can't deal with the drama in the past and has complained to Jay about how much I'm online and said I should stop posting things. I do have to clarify that I do not post anything that is deemed controversial most of that time. Just more so my life and cat videos and such lol. I do deal with a lot of anxiety, but going forward I'm not sure what will happen honestly. I will go back to the gym tomorrow, but I don't think I'll say more than a hello to and what do we all think about this and the steps moving forward. Again, I will stop posting on social media except my workouts, business-related posts. I'm just tired of things I post getting so blown out of proportion and it being made a bigger deal than it is. Stories number 9. Does my boyfriend have 2 phones, or am I going crazy? Okay, so I'm not too sure who to ask for advice, so I'm here. Me 28F and my boyfriend 27 meters have been dating going on 2 years and we have just gotten a house together. And when I'm at work I occasionally check up on the dogs and I was looking at the camera set up in our living room and then I happened to see him picking up his normal phone and putting it down, then picking up another phone on the other side of him. I did confront him and he said he has no other phone and it was only the remote and blah blah blah. But I don't think he knows I can clearly see through the camera him picking up one and typing on it. And then picking up the other phone and typing and what devices have connected to internet. And lo and behold there is a random phone connected to the internet, when no one has been over that could have connected to it, and when I did ask him about having a second phone it just happened to disconnect from the Wi-Fi. So I don't know what I'm masking honestly, just how to go about all of it, so maybe someone will have advice and could possibly help me out. Stories number 10. If I expose a guy for ruining my friend's life. I 26F have a friend to 5F who is going through a lot right now emotionally and physically because of a guy. This guy 27 meters, whom she has been casually dating for about 7 months now, had a GF this whole time. Yes, he was cheating on his GF with my friend their entire relationship. He lied to my friend, told her that he doesn't have a GF, they would casually hang out from time to time at his place. He never posted his GF on his socials. My friend had no idea this guy is a master manipulator and experienced liar. His GF had no idea that he was cheating and lying the whole time too. It's honestly scary. Now recently my friend found out she is pregnant, but she miscarried because of stress. Turns out the guy didn't tell her that the condom broke the last time they hooked up. This happened before the GF found out her BF was cheating on her. Long story short, the GF found out from her friend. I don't really have details on how she found out. From what I know, the guy and the GF has reconciled. They decided to work together on their relationship. Apparently the guy has promised to do therapy, or has started therapy to address his infidelity issues. Now good for him for taking that initiative. However, this guy has the audacity to blame my friend, started cussing at her, telling her to FCK off and leave him and his GF alone as they are trying to heal and move on. This dude didn't even took accountability for getting my friend pregnant. He just said, well, sorry, but what can I do about any of this? And asked her to empathize with him because he is hurting so much. The GF didn't tell anyone about what her BF did to her or my friend. I talked to her and she said she didn't want to because it's embarrassing and she's not ready to let go of him yet because she believes in their love for each other. I'm mad at this guy for what he has done to my friend. She has completely shut down and still struggling mentally and physically because of the miscarriage. And this guy doesn't give a shit about her, not even a sincere apology. WIBTA if I expose him to his friends and family? Or will this just hurt the GF? Do I just let karma do its thing? Stories number 11. My best friend is marrying her abusive fiancé. Trigger warning SA and DV. My best friend 26F and her fiancé 38M are getting married in April. They've been officially dating for less than a year, but they've known each other for going on 7 years. He was her TA in undergrad. He was engaged at the time, and she didn't know. He texted her, called her, would show up at her house without invitation. At the time I told her to make a police report and tell the school. She didn't, but blocked his number and didn't see him. For about a year they then worked in the same lab he was supervising and she unblocked him. He was still engaged and she didn't know. He was also pursuing another girl he was paying for. They saw each other occasionally, maybe 3 times outside of work. He moved with his fiancée across the country. He would fly in to see her at school and at the lab saying he was visiting friends. He and his fiancée broke up and he moved into the same building the fiancée lived in after they split. I'm not totally sure about the timeline, of my friend and him started regularly seeing each other about a year ago and have been official 7 months. The first time they slept together she was blackout and doesn't remember it, but he didn't drink the first time they had a trip together. Hotel security was called because of yelling and he put his hands on her. He describes himself as a very masculine man and doesn't believe in therapy. It's been very clear that I think he is abusive. And I'm concerned for her safety since she told me about her first time and the physical violence. I immediately said that wasn't acceptable and she should end it. She didn't tell me about the relationship for 6 months because she knew how I felt and my concerns. Now she doesn't give me the same details and has really stepped away from our friendship. This is her first relationship and I'm afraid he's isolating her from her support system. I'm seeing her for the first time since the engagement and I don't know what the best way to approach it is. Her family and other friends don't know the details of the relationship and are supportive. I've met with a friend of ours 32F whom she's very close to. She was shocked and had no idea. According to her, my best friend says, don't have strong opinions and everything is going great with the guy. For more context, my best friend has never wanted to get married or have kids. She wants a high-power career and has never seen herself as a mother. She's getting her PhD now and has another 10 years of schooling. The fiancé wants to get married and have kids now before she graduates. I'm worried that she's going to rush into this marriage and have a child she never wanted. She's receptive to my questions and points, but then she talks to him, and it all goes out the window. Should I hold an intervention with her friends? I'm also worried that if I go too hard she'll cut me out. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Stories number 12. My husband wants a housewife but got me instead. AITA. I 30 female. I am a work from home mom with 2 children, male 9 and female 1. We also have 3 dogs. I recently got married to my husband 30 for male. My youngest is ours. And my son is from a different relationship recently. We built our house. And I walk our dogs on leash multiple times a day because we haven't had a fence installed yet. I also take care of our 1-year-old while I work. My son is also into sports and it keeps us pretty busy. Yesterday my husband mentioned that L needed clean our dog's ears. So I said, why can't you do it? He said, I'm going to say this once and I mean it. You are home all day. I should mention that this is his dog that he got before me and I do all of the other chores for all 3 of our dogs, groomers, vet fee, and take them out. Even when he is home I was angry and he walked away. Well, this morning I was still angry and he asked if I was still pissed. Because he didn't say anything crazy and he thinks there is a lot more I can do during the day. Mind you, I work a full-time corporate job from home with our 1-year-old. He said I can make time for the things I want to do instead of the things he needs. I also should mention that I do all of the cleaning, cooking, shopping, and running my son to sports, and his dad, the only thing he takes responsibility for is pulling weeds out of the yard. We have a lawn company who mows. He is supposed to take the trash to the curb and has forgot so many times. I also pack his lunches and do all of his laundry. I am at my wit's end and so stressed out. He can tell I'm frustrated with his lack of help and this has just sent me over the edge. AITA. Edit. Since it has come up in the comments we need me to work. I make majority of our income. Edit again. Since everyone is coming at me for this being rage bait or a fake profile. Yes, I created a profile this morning and no, I've never used Reddit. For thanks to TikTok and the podcasts that read these posts, I decided to come here. The internet is a crazy place. I never thought I would have to defend myself on being real. Stories number 13. Are my husband's expectations unrealistic? I'm trying to gauge if my husband's expectations for me as ASAHM are unrealistic. I feel like they are. He does not, and sometimes, when we argue I feel myself second-guessing if I'm right. I'm not sure if it's because I'm actually in the wrong, or if I get lost in our arguments. I'll start by describing what I do and then what he feels I'm lacking in. Sorry this will be long as I want to create an accurate depiction. First, I'm ASAHN to a 4-year-old who goes to school from 815 to 245 and twin almost 3-year-olds. Every weekday, we both get up at 5:30 and I take a shower while He goes downstairs to ready breakfast for the kids. After the shower we do something intercourse. It's either a hand job for him, or intercourse. I'm not a particularly intercourse person in the morning, so the intercourse is more for him, but I don't starfish or anything. We have a better intercourse life on the weekend. I go downstairs and walk our two dogs while my husband gets the kids up and finish their breakfast. Then I finish getting our oldest ready for school. I brushing his teeth, making sure his school bag is packed and getting him dressed. My husband and oldest leave for him to get dropped off at 7:20. After he leaves I clean up from breakfast, eat something for myself, before going upstairs to do some work with my twins in tow. From about 8:30 to 10:30 I do my makeup, takes about 20 minutes, and work on tidying up the house and doing chores while my twins play. Usually this would include making the beds, putting away any dirty clothes into correct hampers, picking up various things on the floor. I usually start one load of laundry, fold the previous day's laundry, and do one other task. The other task might be vacuuming the upstairs or cleaning one of our 3 bathrooms. In general, my twins are pretty go and will play around upstairs with the various toys, but I do stop frequently to check in on them and interact with them. Then I make them lunch and hopefully they are napping by 1200. From 1200 to 130 I work on stuff for myself after cleaning up any mess from lunch. I have a small Etsy shop that makes about $150 a week, and I also am a part-time author. So in that time I'm either working on orders for the shop or writing. At 130 I get the twins up because I have to leave by 200-ish to get my son from his school. Pickup is at 240. And the school is 30 minutes away, so going to pick him and going back home is about an hour. When I get home, I do various stuff that I didn't get to finish earlier, spend time with the kids, and around 5 I start making dinner for the kids and tidying up the house, as my husband doesn't like to walk in with the toes everywhere. I also prep one of his 2 meals. He is vegetarian, and I am not, so I either prep dough for him or rice and beans. Those are really the only 2 things he eats. Then while the kids are eating and my husband is unwinding, I tidy the house for night time. Do all the dishes from making the kids dinner, wipe down the counters, clean the cat box, and vacuum the downstairs floors. Sometimes my husband does the vacuuming and cat box, it just depends. Then we are both upstairs to get the kids ready for bed. I bathe them and he helps to get them dressed and teeth brushed. I read them a book and then we both put them to bed. After I take the dogs on a nightly walk and my husband and I separately make our meals, eat together. Then before sleeping I give him a massage. This is usually 30 minutes, so that's everything I do. This is where he thinks I am lacking. I do not do enough for him. Intercourse. I do not always have a snack ready for him when he comes home from work. I bake fresh bread on some days, which he eats, or make extra of the kids' dinner for him. But he feels that I need to make things just for him. I do not make sure that his work clothes are laundered. I did try to hand wash them, but he didn't like the way I did it. He still says, need to make sure they're done and steamed. I don't actually make his dinner. As stated, I do the prep work. I don't clean well. I do the bathroom counter and toilets about once a week and the showers about every 2 weeks. He said there was a black rim around the drain yesterday. It is about time for me to clean them. And the toilet still had some pee on it after I cleaned it one time. When I say that his expectations are unrealistic, he says that plenty of women do all of this with no problem, and it is unrealistic of me to expect him to not cuss or keep his cool in arguments. Another issue we have in our relationship. He says that he could have everything that I do in a day done before 9:30 a.m. and doesn't understand when I don't get to certain things in a day. Am I in the wrong here? Even typing it all feels so ridiculous. Please help me understand. Edit. Thank you for everyone commenting. I'm a little overwhelmed with all the responses, but trying to look at all of them. It feels good and bad to be validated. I have always thought these things, but having strangers agree and express their shock about what I deal with really solidifies how terrible my situation is, and makes it much more real. People have suggested counseling for us, have suggested that, and he will not go. Or he agrees and then pulls back. I will definitely concede that I should be in therapy. People have also asked why I continue to do so much. I think it's a bit of a fun trauma response, if you're familiar with that. Doesn't make it okay, and I realize I'm enabling him. But I just feel like it's easier than dealing with his temper if he doesn't get what he wants. Definitely something to work out in therapy. My plan. Honestly, my gut says prepare to be more independent. I definitely need to go back to work when my twins can go to preschool next school year. Stories number 14. AITA for not wanting to move my wedding dates because my sister is pregnant. So a lot has happened in the past few days. I called my brother the day after I made my post. He understood where I was coming from and told me that I should absolutely not change my wedding date. So since I was worried about speaking to my mom and being ganged up on, we planned on when to speak to my mom about not wanting to change my fiancé and his wedding dates so he could be there too. Talk to my mom on my behalf and my emotions got the best of me. That didn't happen. My mom called me the next day to talk it over. I informed her that I was not going to change my wedding date, and she was upset initially, surprisingly receptive to it. I was extremely happy about that until she said you need to talk to your sister about this, because she's not going to be happy about being forced out 1 month postpartum. I explained I wasn't expecting forcing her to be in attendance. Then my mom said no, she's coming to your wedding. I don't care if she's a new mom. After that I got in a bit of an argument with my mom about her forcing my sister to do something that isn't the best for her and her future family, which I ended hanging up on. Harry, don't take being spoken to in a harsh tone easily, and will tell the other person to take a minute to reevaluate their tone and come back. During the call she also let slip that she was also extremely disappointed in me for going to my brother for support instead of her, and said I was just creating family drama for no reason, which it is what it is. I needed a family perspective, which is why I called my brother. I ended up trying to call my sister the next day, which was declined. So I texted her and informed her that I would not be changing my wedding dates. It was a lot longer of a text. Explains reasons and emotions. She replied a day later with you and I both know that your wedding dates aren't officially set, and the only factor would be communicating the change to fiancé's family. I hope the hassle is worth having my and your literal niece or nephew's presence. I explained that I have already put money down on multiple things, as well as having my fiancé's family planning accommodating around this date for 7 months. She was not receptive in my opinion and said there are really no excuses. You have the power to move the date even just a little later in the summer to include me, and you're choosing not to. That hurts, which I ended up responding that I'm not choosing to not have her at my wedding, but understand she may not be able to come and will have to fast a time in instead, as well as explain that I already moved my wedding date once to accommodate her. I asked her to try to put herself in my shoes and how she would felt if I asked to push back her wedding, which she replied I would have moved my date in a heartbeat. That's the difference between us. At that point, I decided to offer up pushing it back to the 26th of June. Yes, some comments said to see if she would still be going to her previously planned vacation, which thank God I did, because she told me she couldn't do the 26th as she's still going to go on her vacation 20 days after my wedding. I'm not the most knowledgeable about babies since I don't have one and have only known my BF baby. But I don't feel like there's a huge difference between traveling with a 1-month-old and a 1.5-month-old. So that solidified in my mind that she doesn't care about me, my fiancé, or our feelings, but still expects everyone to accommodate to her. At this point, as per my fiancé's advice, I'm putting it in the avid drawer in my head, and I'm not going to stress about it anymore because everyone knows the date is set. If my family would like to show up to my wedding, that would be amazing, but if not, I'm not going to be upset. At the end of the day, this will just show me who to prioritize as family in my life, because family is not always blood. Stories number 15. Should I apologize for snapping at a group of mother at a kids park? Hello everyone. Before the actual update, I wanted to thank all of you for taking the time to read my original post and the sweet comments and upvotes regarding what I saw in the comments about my sister. We grew up with me being the ugly duckling and always being left out, and she saw how it hurt me. And I kept to myself more and more during my time in school, and I think she is very scared that would happen to any kids, not just her own but all kids. This is why she always makes a point to invite all the children in the class of her oldest daughter. The youngest one that I babysit isn't in school yet. And like she said, it's not because their mothers are sh** that their kid should pay for it. They don't have learned to hate yet, and we need to show them that there is nothing to hate to start with. If we don't invite the kids, then we give them ammunition to hate on you and the others. So yeah, my sister is awesome. So the update warning, it's bad, like really bad, so if you don't want to read it all, just know that I'm not okay, but it will be fine. So Saturday was the farmer market. IDK if you have that in the US, but here they close a part of the town to the cars. It becomes pedestrian only, and you buy stuff like meat, fruits, vegetables, and handcrafted things directly from the producers. So I was there to buy my groceries. First came the mother who talked to my sister. She tapped my shoulders and came to apologize to me. She told me that she doesn't think that I'm dangerous toward children, and that her kids will stay and play with my niece if they want to. She also warned me and told me that the mom group is exploding, at least 2 moms when spying on their husband's phone, and yes, they are cheaters. Now the messenger group is full of hate and pointing fingers, and on top of that, another mother found a very famous app for meeting other men for fun time on her husband's phone. But now the big stuff. When I was leaving the farmer market, I was attacked from behind. I don't have any memory of what happened. I woke up at the hospital. I have a concussion, several broken ribs, a broken jaw, and several missing broken teeth on top of bruises and cuts all over my body, but mostly my head and my torso. I spent all my weekend in the room and I couldn't stand it anymore, so I went home a few hours ago. I didn't remember my Reddit password, it wasn't saved on my phone. But I read all your comments while I was in the hospital. Since you helped me during that time, I wanted to give you this update. Don't worry, I'm in France, so the medical bill won't be that bad. And the doctors are pretty confident that I'll make at least a 95% recovery, if not 100%. But if you have some super seats, I'll take them. Yeah, sorry, painkiller won't help my already questionable sense of humor. The only bad side is that I'm scared of every nose currently. I'll confess I can't sleep much, and the only thing that is currently helping me is to have a kitchen knife hidden in my bed. The cops came to the hospital and asked me what happened Saturday afternoon. I couldn't say much at first, but then they told me that they caught several of the men who attacked me, but at least one escaped. They aren't worried since the attack happened near a bank. They are going to ask for the surveillance tape. All of it should have been recorded. So they are just waiting for the paperwork and confident that they will catch him, her. From what they got from the one they caught before the lawyer showed up, from their POV, their wives told them that I was creeping on the children, and I also threatened them when they asked me politely to leave the park, so I told them my version of the story, aka my previous post. My sister is currently very scary-eyed. If Sister Bear is a thing. If it's not, she is currently inventing it. She contacted them on the one who apologized to me and her, and asked for her to take screenshots of the messenger group chat and to go to the cops as soon as she could. A journalist came to the hospital Sunday, but I refused to share my story and asked them to not publish it. I used the fact that it could injure the investigation, and they seemed to agree. But the truth is that I know that I won't be able to deal with seeing the picture of my face with 2 black eyes and several cuts and bruises living forever on the internet. To be honest, I don't know if I will be able to stay in my town and be the gay that was beaten up for creeping on children in everybody's mind. I'm not as strong as my sister, so I'm thinking about running away. And even if for now I avoid mirrors like the plague, I know that it's my next challenge, that and facing my mom and dad and seeing the hurt and pain in their eyes. Sorry everybody, my mind is upside down and I really tried to make all of this make sense. I probably won't post any more updates about this. I'll read the comments, but for now I just want to cry and sleep. And I can't wait to put all of this far behind me. T.S. If a moderator see this, are you able to put a link for my previous post somewhere in this, please? Stories number 16. If I don't tell my sister happy birthday. I 24-year-old female share a birthday with my older sister 28-year-old female. I know how'd my parents plan that one out. LOL. Anyways, my sister and I have always been close, and sharing a birthday has become something special for us as we've gotten older. 2 years ago I truly would consider her my best friend. Today, I don't know if she is even my sister anymore. Over the past year, our relationship has been put through the ringer. For backstory, my mother has severe bipolar disorder, which made our childhood not so fun. Physical, emotional, psychological abuse, all the above. Without going too deep into it, my mother almost took her life, which landed her in a facility that completely turned her life around with many years and effort. I have finally found forgiveness for my mother and would truly say she is a changed woman. My older sister, who got the worst of it growing up, has gone back and forth but finally decided that she does not want any part of my mother in her life. I have always respected my sister's decisions by not bringing my mom up and separating my two lives as much as possible. Over the past year or so, I have feared that my sister had inherited my mother's genes, on top of the undealt with trauma she has been through. She hit me for the first time over a year ago. Now she has threatened to drive me into oncoming traffic. She has been verbally abusive and mean. She's kicked me out of her car in the middle of nowhere to avoid eating me until I bleed. It's all really scary when I say these things out loud. My entire life I am known for letting people walk all over me if applied distance in our relationship, because it was getting to the point I couldn't handle it anymore. I told her that I wanted to talk in person about our relationship the next time we are both home. The next time we were both home, she blew up on my father and left without giving me the time of day. I think it truly sunk in that fixing our relationship is out of my hands. After I reached out again, hoping to speak over the phone. I finally laid out all of my hurt and wanted to hear her hurt as well. My goal was to ultimately explain that I feel like we need space from each other to heal and figure our feelings out. She ended the phone call while I was talking, so I never got that across. My sister explained that she has come to the decision that she is okay with not being close anymore. She explained that since I am capable for forgiveness toward my mother, she just cannot see how we will ever be close. I don't understand why this is surfacing now after all these years. She is okay with having a superficial relationship with me, and I am not. I am a very deep and empathetic person. I want to solve this even if it's not today. Although she has made her mind up, so I feel like I have to protect myself after all of the hurt she's caused me. It sucks because there is so much more to explain to get strangers to understand the depth of my situation. I thought maybe if I could maybe wrap my mind around how to move forward. Like I said, we have a birthday coming up. I am trying to remain no contact for the well-being of a possible future relationship. Will it be a mistake to not wish her happy birthday? Am I weak if I do tell her happy birthday? I want to stick to my boundaries, but I also don't want to do the wrong thing. Help me. Stories number 17. AITA for being upset with our friend who ghosted us for almost 2 years. I apologize for the long post. There's a bit of backstory required for this to make sense. All names are fake. My husband to AITA has been friends with Kyle to AITA for almost 10 years. They were friends for about 2 years before my husband introduced us, and we then became friends. We hung out with Kyle most weekends along with whatever girlfriend he had at the time. Kyle was the best man in our wedding and had been telling us since before we got married that he couldn't wait to be Uncle Kyle. Well, fast forward about a year and I was pregnant. Once we told our families, we of course told Kyle and his then girlfriend, who I had become really good friends with and still communicate with daily. He was of course excited for us and was excited to be Uncle Kyle. That being said, he hung out with us once throughout the entirety of my pregnancy. Did not come to the baby shower. Never texted or called to say hi or check on any of us. Didn't even interact with any of the posts we'd made when we found out the gender or when I gave birth. Nothing. Crickets. Fast forward again, our kiddo is almost 2 and he's now messaged me that he misses us and now lives closer. Granted, he did live 2 hours away, but it's 2 hours not to states. Hubby has decided he's not interested in putting forth much effort into reaching out anymore, and is largely unbothered. I probably should be as well. However, when I brought to Kyle's attention that had not spoken to us, shown up for us, visited, or bothered to show any interest until he moved, the only response I got was that bullshit and denial. By bringing up his lack of communication, we're now back to radio silence. Should I have just let it go? I may also feel this way because my best friend and maid of honor lives across the county, has for the entirety of our friendship and makes more of an effort than Kyle. Am I the asshole for being upset with him? Edit. I feel I should mention that this isn't the first time this has been an issue. This is just the only time that we didn't give in and again reach out after a while. Mostly because we were trying to keep a tiny human alive, but also because we were tired of being the ones to continue making the effort and reach out. Stories number 18. My daughter just contacted me after 17 years asking if I want to meet my granddaughter. AITA for telling her that I don't care about her or her daughter and to never contact me again. I am not sure if am I now going to provide some background. I am in my 60s now. I was married to my ex-wife and we had a daughter. Our marriage was going through its ups and downs. I was really close with our daughter. But as our marriage was going through its difficulties, I made a huge mistake I still regret to this day. I started having an affair with my coworker. She was in a violent, physically abusive relationship at home. We became friends at work and things just escalated from there. She got an out from me. She got the support she needed to file for divorce from her husband, who is currently in jail now. The affair went nowhere and we called it off shortly after. But I was glad that she got off her abusive relationship and that she was safe. But when my ex-wife found out about the affair, things expectedly didn't go well. She lashed out and said a lot of horrible things about me to our daughter, who was 15 at the time. I admitted full fault with the affair, but even after the divorce I sensed that the distance between me and my daughter was growing, until one day my daughter said she wasn't going to speak with me anymore and she was going to cut me off from her life forever. That was the most painful thing anyone had ever said to me. I begged her to please reconsider. I still remember that day. But time passed on. My daughter kept her word, and after trying to connect with her for the first year I gave up. I found out from one of my mutual friends that my ex-wife married a great guy. I was happy because I was hoping that would remove the hatred from my ex-wife, and my ex-wife would advise our daughter to at least rekindle a relationship with me, but that never happened. I moved states a year later. I am at peace now but still have some making sadness. I have retired. Both my parents had passed away. My brother passed away tragically a couple of years ago. To be honest, I am waiting for my turn. I have only my dog and my sister left. A couple of hours ago my daughter called me on my phone. I haven't spoken to her in 17 years. I instantly recognized her voice, but I didn't feel anything, no happiness, no sadness, just indifference. She was crying a lot on the call and we caught up on life. She's married and she has a daughter who's now 12. She apologized for cutting off contact and she says her mom asked her to reconnect with me as her mom felt guilty about how everything played out. She said she really wanted me to meet her daughter and her daughter was constantly asking about granddaddy, but I wasn't feeling anything. After we caught up on everything and our life, I told her I don't care about her or her daughter and to never contact me again. I then hung up. Was I Thea? Look, he was extremely drunk last night. The words which came out of my mouth weren't the best. And my comments on my post weren't great either. Seeing how everyone said I was the I decided to call my daughter again an hour ago. I didn't really expect her to pick up the call, but she picked up immediately, apologized for last night, and she said there was no need to apologize. I then sent her a link to this Reddit post on messages and told her I know I was the and thousands said, so she again said I wasn't the She started crying again. I told her she's free to come to my house anytime the next for months, because after that I will be leaving the country with my sister and our dog. Our parents left us a nice farmhouse in their home country, and we will be spending the rest of our lives there. I sent her my address on messages and my daughter said she'd come with her husband and her daughter by end of next week. She asked if she was welcome to stay there for multiple days and I told her she could stay for however long she wanted as our house was spacious enough. I have moved to the farmland and am looking forward to spend the rest of my life here with my dog and my sister. It is peaceful and scenic. My daughter did come by to visit me with her husband and her daughter before I left the country. It was really nice seeing my granddaughter, who looked a lot like her mom. They stayed over at our place for a week and we had a good time. However, it got a little sad when I told my daughter in private I had no interest in being a grandfather and just didn't have strong emotions for it. I think those words really stung her, and my daughter did cry a lot after I said those words. My daughter wanted to rekindle our relationship, but it's just too late now. I told my daughter she's free to visit me in the farmland anytime she wants, and the house is always open, but I doubt she'll be visiting anytime soon. The week she stayed over at my place before I left the country was a final goodbye for us. She has my number, but she hasn't called or texted since she left, and I haven't called or texted her either. That's the update for the many interested. This will probably be my only update. Stories number 19. Is this disrespectful towards my boyfriend? I'm first year in college, F18, and Hoko is coming up this weekend. I really want to go, but am in a relationship with my boyfriend. I'm 18. We've been dating for 9 months now, we're each other's first. There has been no cheating, but my boyfriend has trust issues. But not with me. My boyfriend is the type of person to say that he trusts me but says he doesn't trust men, which is really frustrating because Hoko college party is this weekend and he can't go, so he basically doesn't want me to go because he doesn't trust other guys. And even if I do go, he's going to get upset with me. My boyfriend knows I've always wanted to go because I have strict parents, but since I've gone to college they've calmed down a bit so I can finally go to a party. I just don't know what to do. He basically implies that if I go I don't respect him, because he tries his best to not get involved with other girls' friends' girlfriends, but I never asked him to. The thing is, I'm gonna be my girlfriends and not with guys. Just because guys are there doesn't mean I'm going for them, or try anything to get their attention. I'm just stuck with what to do. I'm not sure how to convince him, or change his mind with me going. I just don't want him to be upset. Also, is it disrespectful for me going to the party? Stories number 20. My 31F husband 30M following and sharing posts of Insta models continues to bother me. But he insists it shouldn't. How can I get past this? This has been a recurrent issue in my relationship with my 31F husband 30M for the past 10 years. What is especially hurtful is that he even sends posts in his guys chat about these virtual girls he wants to get with, and he has almost no appetite for anything physical with me, so I feel so inadequate and unwanted. He used to apologize and say hell stop, but now he just insists it's what guys do and not a big deal, but I can't help but feel hurt. If he's so thirsty for them, who would never give him the time of day, then why isn't he thirsty for me at all? In no Instagram model, but I am girl next door, pretty and have a decent figure. I know this is a common trait of men, so I have a two-partner, I guess. For the men, why doesn't his thirst for intercourse extend to me? For the women, how do you get over this? TL. Doctor. My 31F husband 30M following and sharing posts of Insta models continues to bother me. How can I get past this? I was being unfair and dramatic to say he's not thirsty for me. He does show affection in some manner almost daily, and we are intimate about once a week. He just doesn't really initiate that anymore, maybe once or twice a month. He used to initiate intimacy almost daily, so once a week without much interest from him feels drastic. But it's definitely not nothing and is more than a lot of people who get nothing get. Stories number 21. Hi. This is my first post on this sub, but I've lurked here for a long time. And I think I've made a comment or two before. But now the time has come for me to ask for advice, views on a relationship issue. My 27F partner, also 27 gender non-specific, recently moved in with me. It is something we have discussed before this, and when my previous lease ended I rented a house with their knowledge and agreement that we would live in it together. I pay the rent, they pay the bills plus date nights plus non-food groceries, and we split the food groceries pretty evenly apart from minor quibbles about keeping house decor ideas and who has to deal with our grumpy porter we've got on swimmingly. With none of the conflicts that we'd been gently warned about. Except for one thing, I can't sleep with my partner in the same bedroom. Before we moved in together we had spent a couple of nights together here and there, sometimes at my place, sometimes there's at hotels during holidays, etc. And I never really had any problem falling asleep. However, I now realize that each one of those times I was dead tired from having a day filled with activities. This is because it wasn't convenient for me to commute to work from my partner's place, nor was it convenient for them to commute to theirs, so we only stayed over on weekends and holidays when we'd spend the entire day out and about. Now that we live together I am not worn out or drunk by bedtime, and consequently, their snoring keeps me awake. It's incessant from the moment they fall asleep until they wake up. We've tested for sleep apnea. It's not that, just regular clogged sinuses. They've tried a variety of implements like braces, nasal dilators, etc., and none of it works. One day I had enough of it and slept in the guest bedroom. It was heaven. I nearly cried with relief when I tucked myself in and it was silent around me. My partner tolerated it for a few days, but yesterday they came home with earplugs for me. I have genetic hearing loss already at my age, and earplugs make me anxious. I haven't mentioned this to them, but given their doggedness about finding a solution to enable us to share a bedroom, I seriously doubt that they'd be very sympathetic. I now feel extremely pressure and I am reluctant to wear the earplugs. It has been so peaceful sleeping alone compared to the early days, when I'd lie awake practically all night, be cranky all day long and dread coming home from work because it meant another night of lost sleep. How do I tell my partner, whom I love and do not want to break up with, that I would prefer us to sleep in separate bedrooms? Stories number 22. I've been cheating on my abusive BF and I've been enjoying it. What's wrong with him? I've been with my partner for 8 years. In that time, he has been physically and emotionally abusive. He has done things like thrown my clothes on the lawn, put them in the rubbish bin, and turned the hose on, smash things at me, list goes on. It is absolutely disgusting. Why didn't I leave? Because I was stuck in the circle of abuse. Trauma bond. I realize that now. If you haven't been there, I don't think you will get it. But it is very, very hard to leave. Anyway, I started talking to my ex from 15 years ago. Absolute incredible intercourse, words can't describe how good it is, so I went there. It started when I was so fed up of my BF treatment. I did it once out of revenge in my mind anyway, but the problem is now I can't stop. I've been enjoying it as well. My ex is not BF material. We just have amazing intercourse chemistry and I don't want to give it up. I am being selfish. It's hard, but I feel like when I initially cheated it felt like I was gaining power, like a big giant fu. It was only meant to be a one-time thing. I can't bring myself to leave and I know I should. Inside of me feels even with him now. Why do I feel like this? It's fucking with me mentally. Has anyone done this, or am I the only pause that has? Stories number 23. AITA for telling my husband that he absolutely ruined the birth of our child. Hi everyone, our daughter is now 8 weeks old, so obviously this whole argument has gone on a very, very long time. We both have been holding grudges and neither of us think that we are wrong. My husband does not know I am posting this, so I'm going to keep it as anonymous as possible. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, my husband started in immediately telling me that I should have a home birth. I really do not know why he was so adamant on it, but he was. At first I brushed him off and told him I would think about it because I was only 6 weeks pregnant and the birth seemed so far off. Of course it came quickly and my husband would literally speak over me at doctor's appointments when my doctor would ask if I had a birth plan. This caused a few arguments between us in those 39 weeks of pregnancy, but I never really changed my mind. Eventually my husband's mother sat down and talked to me, and she told me all of the reasons why they did not want me to go to a hospital for the birth. I expressed my concerns about safety of the baby and myself, but just like my husband, she brushed me off. I ended up telling my husband that I would take myself to the hospital when it was time and that I did not want a home birth. He acted as if he didn't hear me. We met with a doula, who was also very pushy. I felt overwhelmed and not supported at all. I was 36 weeks at that point. So when I went into labor I was 39 weeks and I absolutely begged my husband to take me to the hospital where my doctor is. He wouldn't. He spoke to me condescendingly and called the doula instead. I was in labor for about 3 days, active labor for around the last 22 hours. I cried the whole time. I just felt something was wrong. I was scared and oftentimes they left me alone. The doula told me that if active pushing and labor reached 24 hours, had to go into the hospital. I remember thinking that I could not decide which was worse, staying in labor for another 2 hours or having my baby right there. When she was finally out, I don't even remember wanting to hold her. I just remember crying out of relief. Obviously I am okay now, but I did not have a good experience. On my first appointment after birth with my doctor, she was very shocked I had the baby. She was concerned. I was so upset. I told my husband that he absolutely ruined it for me. I truly never want to go through that again. I hear mothers say that they forget all the pain the second they have the baby, but I didn't. I love my daughter so much, but it was horrible and it was entirely his fault. So I told him that several times. He rolls his eyes every time and tells me how mothers are strong and how I am not trying to be strong. I told him that if we ever have another baby, which he wants, that I will never do a home birth ever again. His response is, "We'll see." I cannot possibly be taught here, can I? Everyone around me is acting like this is so normal, but it's not, is it? Stories number 24. I too for M think I saw something on this girl's to for F phone, but am not totally sure how to proceed. Long time lurker, first time poster, and honestly never felt like I'd be asking Reddit for advice, but here I am. Anyway, here's the context. I've been seeing this girl for just under 2 months and we've known each for months prior to that through indirect work relations. Things have been going really well and, until now, there hasn't been a proper hiccup. We were just laid up on the couch and she was on her phone scrolling her camera roll, trying to put together pics for an Insta post. As she was scrolling early September, I saw a picture of another dude in her elevator, taken in a similar fashion to pictures she's shown me of myself. She would discreetly take pictures, especially the first couple times I'd hung out, just to send to her friends and be like, look who I'm with. The picture was very clearly not me and she swiped away from the image quickly and did the same on a screenshot of some texts from around the same time. Normally I wouldn't care what she was doing, but at that point we had already had intercourse, and if she's hooked up with other people after we had, then I'm just not really cool with that. In retrospect, I wish I would have just asked her about it in the moment, but I was so caught off guard. I feel like I should just tell her what I think I saw and ask her about it straight up, or I can just ignore it because everything else has been seamless and she very much has verbalized and shown investment in getting to know each other. So I suppose I'm just looking for thoughts about whether that's the best way to go about it, or just other general thoughts. Stories number 25. I'm going to try my best to keep this short, but I need advice. 1 to 6F have had limited communication with my mother for 9F for the past approximately 3 years. Growing up, my mom constantly cheated on my dad, who is my adopted father. I had an incredibly difficult childhood with my parents' behavior. My parents finally divorced about 5 years ago, and mom skipped town with her affair partner. She now lives 2 hours away. I have 2 younger siblings, both still in high school, and an older sister. I hold so much resentment against her for essentially abandoning my younger siblings. We hardly see her. The last time for me being Christmas of 2023. We hardly talk to her. She does not support my younger siblings. They live with my dad. FT. Well, I just got engaged this past weekend. My fiancé is the most supportive, kind individual I have ever met. Now my mom wants to help and be included in our festivities. She has not even had a conversation with my fiancé. We have been together for 1.5 years. I did tell her of our engagement, but I'm not sure how to navigate this situation. I feel torn between what girl doesn't want her mom on her wedding day, and why should she get the accolades now when she has been absent for the past few years. What would you do? Stories number 26. WIBTA for ghosting one of my best friends. I 30F have been friends with Mary to for F for the last 2 years. We met at work and have gotten really close until recently. I would have considered her one of my best friends. We spent time together regularly, texted pretty much all day every day, talked through all the big life stuff. At the beginning of the summer, Mary went back to school and I guess it ended up being a bigger commitment than she anticipated. We started talking way less. She also vaguely mentioned some mental health struggles when I would check in, and I would always remind her that I was there for her whenever she was ready to talk about it. On the 4th of July, we were at work together with some other friends in our group. I had been trying to make plans for the holiday, but everyone seemed kinda noncommittal. I was pregnant at the time, so I shrugged it off and spent the night in, only to find out later that Mary had several of our friends over and did not invite me after telling me she had schoolwork to do. Shit happens and I was not fun to party with pregnant. I shrugged it off. The following week she wanted my help with a personal project, and I offered to meet the next day for lunch after work since we were set to be off at the same time. She said yes, told me she was excited to spend time together, and then swapped shifts and left early the next day without saying anything. Figured she forgot. Again, shrug it off. After that, I had an intimate birthday dinner for my 30th. She had communicated with me the week before that she may not be able to make it, and then waited until the very last minute to let me know that she wouldn't be there because I had to ask about updated reservation numbers. I was hurt at that point, and between these 3 incidents and the drastic reduction in conversation, I started to wonder what was wrong. Finally, my baby shower was a few weeks later. She had RSVP'd 6 weeks prior when I sent out invites. Kept telling me how excited she was and spent my whole pregnancy telling me what a great aunt she was going to be to my baby. 1 week beforehand, she let me know that she apparently had tickets she had forgotten about for the same evening as my shower, but swore she'd figure it out. Then she could only come to the shower for a little bit, then basically couldn't come. At this point, I confronted her. I told her that I was disappointed, hurt, and that this behavior pattern made me feel like something was off in our friendship. We had a big long conversation where she shared that her mental health had been much worse than she had shared, and she didn't mean to make me feel a way. I thought we cleared the air. Things continued to be kind of awkward. We exchanged a few messages and Snapchats in the weeks after while she was on a trip, but it was still not normal. She finally sent me a big long text basically owning that her shit had gotten in her way and she did not communicate well. However, she was hurt by my confrontation. Specifically that I assumed malicious intent and made her feel like a bad friend while she was already struggling. I tried to explain that like I'm pregnant and extra sensitive, I already feel like I'm losing a lot of my friends. Sorry that I assumed, but she said she doesn't know how to move forward. I told her I love her and I'm here but about to have a baby, so I'll leave the ball in her court. A week later I gave birth to my baby a month early. Labor was spontaneous and fast, kinda scary, and my baby has had medical complications due to being born early that I have been really struggling with. She has not checked in one time. All I've gotten is a single "oh my god, she's so beautiful" on a Snap story of my baby. If it's just the hormones, but I'm really hurt. If helped this girl move, shown up to every event, supported her through multiple mental health episodes, helped her text woes, all the usual bestie things. And she doesn't even care to check in on me or her niece after a scary early labor and medical issues. I have no energy for a confrontation, but this is deeply upsetting me. Would I be the asshole if I just didn't say anything and stopped trying at all to be her friend? Stories number 27. If I refuse to attend Thanksgiving and Christmas to avoid my sister. Hi to Hot Takes fam, long-time listener and first-time poster. I 29F have an older sister, let's call her a, who's consistently late or a flake. She's been like this since I was a kid. I have memories of being excited to go to the mall with my big sister only for her to change her mind last minute to hang out with a friend. I'd always get my hopes up just to be let down. As an adult I've expected her lateness, flakiness, and avoid making plans together. She's married with 2 toddlers now. Her husband doesn't seem to have a guilty conscience of their inability to be on time, so he either enables this behavior or contributes to it himself as well. Since my partner has joined the family, he's been a witness to my sister's patterns. The aspect that makes us the most frustrated is that there's a lack of communication when her family will be late or cancel when we're on time, as well as the rest of our family. And as family is the only one late, it makes us feel like our time isn't valuable. There's a lack of respect to even have the decency to give a heads up. What makes matters worse, they don't even address their lateness when they arrive. At holiday parties they'll show up with an unprepared dish and expect family members to pitch in to help cook, bake. When it comes to family, has no sense of hospitality or generosity. Things came to a head when my mom asked Diane to block off a weekend for a girls' trip. I took a day off of work to make it a 3-day weekend. I had the time off as well. We made the plans about a month in advance. As the weekend approached, I asked if we could carpool. I live further away from the location and wanted to avoid taking multiple cars. She didn't reply for a day and then claimed she forgot to respond, and that we can't carpool because she didn't know when she'd come. I saw the sign a mile away that she was about to flake. Girls' weekend came and went, and we didn't hear from her until the final day of our trip. I texted per attempt at an apology, how the weekend panned out, and ended with it takes more time planning when figuring out babysitting. She has a husband and she had a month. I was fine that she flaked, but my mom was upset that there was no communication, that I wouldn't even show up. This was the first time as behavior really disappointed her. I couldn't stand that, so I sent back a paragraph of text about how upset I was that she didn't have the decency to communicate to mom if something came up and she couldn't attend our trip. There's more behavior from Aya and her husband that make us frustrated and uncomfortable, but I'll leave it at that. I've told my mom privately that his behavior will cause a tear in the family at some point if she doesn't change or if someone doesn't intervene. She understood but hasn't made any moves to talk to about this. Would if I refuse future family gatherings to avoid. Thank you in advance. Edit. Well, thank you everyone for your comments. I really appreciate everyone's advice here. I'll admit I wrote this post in a haste after a frustrating event, so I Needed to cool off and think about the bigger picture. I agree that not attending family gatherings like Thanksgiving and Christmas would ultimately hurt my parents and would make me miss out on time with my family. As a side note here, these holidays are only spent with my parents as family, my brother and myself, my partner. My partner is from another country, so celebrating with his family isn't an option, lol. With small family gatherings like this, the timing of the meals is absolutely dictated by his family's arrival, usually hosted at my parents'. I agree on establishing a time beforehand and sticking to it. However, my parents will usually let this slide when they host. Also agreed on the idea of not giving her any task that we'd need to rely on unless she's willing to host herself. We usually task her with a simple side dish or dessert, something we wouldn't be disappointed in missing if it doesn't actually get brought. Also love the idea of helping her bring her unprepared dish back to her car. I've also shown my partner this post as well as everyone's comments, and he feels more relieved going into the holiday season. He's been more affected by his behavior than me in recent years since he didn't grow up with a sibling like her. He's from a culture where respect towards your family is very important, so he takes his behavior to heart. I initially proposed foregoing the holidays for his sake, but we're both on board with attending with our own car and going into the gatherings as if, as family, we'll just be bonus guests with perhaps a bonus dish to contribute. We will not be relying on the unreliable. T.S. I plan on discussing this matter further with her to let her know how her lack of communication when it comes to being late or changing plans makes me feel. Wish me luck. Thank you again for reading and lending some advice to a fellow to Hot Takes listener. Stories number 28. Boyfriend of 7 years told me he didn't want to be with me. Advice. I really don't know what I want from this thread. Advice perhaps. I'm at a loss of what to do. I know it's a long shot that anyone had been in any sort of similar situation. Boyfriend of 7 years told me he doesn't want to be in any kind of relationship. Now let's rewind for the backstory. We start dating when I 30F and he M45 met at the bar I worked at 7 years ago. We dated for a year and I was in a pinch and moved in. My son was 2 at the time, his kids were 12 and 14. I was in beauty school at the time but eventually quit because it was difficult to keep up while working my bar job and taking care of a small child. 2020 happened. Things were really great at that point. We were spending quality time together. I lost my job but started volunteering with animals. I found a new job and love for retail at an amazing store. It's important to note that I have always worked just as much as him. I just never made the money he did. He owns his own company, makes good money. We agreed that I contribute to the household in other ways. Everything that has to do with his house is my job, and I'm okay with that. Laundry, dishes, I bake regularly because he loves sweets. Keeping things tidy and taking care of his husky are just a couple examples. I will say sometimes I feel like he doesn't appreciate that I do all of this work and take care of a small child, but I understand it's my responsibility. He loves to remind me it is his house, his dog, his way. When I have vocalized that it bothers me, he just tells me to find a skill that actually makes me money. This is important for later. In those 7 years we never really had explosive arguments, a few little things. Yes, but nothing huge. It usually ended with me being sad and wanting to talk it out, and him wanting to internalize and be left alone. He told me that I should be less emotional and harden myself. So for the past year I have. In turn our relationship has drifted apart. I took him off the pedestal I had him on and started enjoying time with myself, my son, and I took trips. His niece always joined. We tried new restaurants. I learned to kayak. I even started going to concerts again. He hates the music I like. Romantically, there just wasn't much between us. I told him I'd like to spend quality time with him months ago and that it was important to me. He said we spend enough time together because I live in his house. That led to a dead bedroom. Earlier this year I was unemployed for about 6 months, helping out a friend while I spent days searching and applying. I have been struggling since finding something that I could work while my son is in school that pays more than minimum wage. I thought I had something secure, but they took back what they agreed to pay me and cut my hours. Currently I work 2 jobs that pay terribly, but at least it's something. Well, he doesn't seem to think so. I'd like to add that I do pay for all of my son's and my things on my own. I buy our own food, car payment, clothes, school extracurriculars, phones, etc. Last night I noticed he was quiet. I asked what's wrong. He told me he wasn't happy in our relationship. I asked what I could do to help strengthen our relationship. He said he didn't think we could. I apologized for pushing him away the past year. He said how he thinks pure relationship would be better if I had my own house. And we only saw each other a couple days a week. I said, but that's not what a partnership looks like. He said we are not in a partnership. He said he believes he takes care of me. I'll admit my favorite thing about him is how grounded and secure he is. He said he has never seen me as an equal and that if I learned a skill and made more money, he might think differently, but he'd still be unhappy. Because that would mean I'd have to be a part of decision making. He said there is no animosity, that he does like how kind I am. He just doesn't want a relationship at all. I asked if he was breaking up with me. He asked if he could still spend time with my son from a previous relationship if we did. I cried for the first time in almost 2 years over a man. I am devastated. I asked if he would be willing to try therapy. He said fuck no, because he knows it's on him. He said he doesn't want someone telling him how to change. Because he doesn't want to. I asked if he loved me still. He said yes. I said but not enough to work it out. He got quiet and said nothing. I cried myself to sleep last night, woke up at 5 today, 8 a.m. now, writing this on my break on my 10-hour shift. I would like to make it work, but I don't know how. I also don't know where to go from here. Like stated above, I don't have a career. I make very little money. I do not have a family. His family took me in as their own. My grandma has dementia and hardly knows who I almost of the time. Everyone else is gone. I also have to think about my son. He has seen his dad with a new girlfriend of a year and a half for the last 7 years. I feel like a failure, a kind homeless failure. Any advice is appreciated. Edit. He has clearly had these feelings for a long time. Internalizing them has only led to resentment towards me. My biggest regret is not doing more for my own future. Because I truly did not see one without him. We had a dynamic. I did not the extent of his feelings. Now I am just trying to move forward. I have looked into most of the certificates those of you have mentioned, so thank you for those suggestions. Stories number 29. I don't feel safe around my crazy dad. I 15 female have a crazy dad. It's not just me that thinks he's crazy, it is recognized by everyone around us. He's not like psycho, but he's pretty cuckoo. I convinced my mom to divorce him because he's horrible, abusive, not physically. That was about a year ago, and since then all of us have moved into an apartment together. While we are waiting for my mom's house to be built. My dad is jobless and my mom owns her own business and makes a decent amount of money. My dad is a catastrophizer and has severe depression. The past couple of months, years have been filled with him crying and screaming and crying at us. My mom always comforted him, but I lost the ability to feel sympathy after a few months of him talking shit about my mom and playing the victim. A lot has happened since then and things have gotten a lot worse. And currently he has started to threaten my mom with his suicide. She is paying for his apartment and for him to go to college so he can get a job, but he failed all his tests. He is also refusing to sign something about selling our old house because he doesn't like our realtor, but that's not important. In my opinion, he is extremely aggressive and screams if he's in a bad mood. And example of this is he came home one day, he found a sticker in one of the chairs in the kitchen. He called everyone in and started yelling at us, saying we needed to tell him who put the sticker on the chair. He got more and more angry when no one was talking. And I just kind of went and sat on the couch because I don't like to involve myself with his drama, blah blah. Something happened. I was watching TV and 20 minutes later he comes out crying and leaves the apartment. He literally doesn't come back for 2 days and he literally played the victim. I asked my mom what he was crying about this time. And apparently, it was because she tried to explain to him that everyone was scared to tell him who did it. And that's why no one confessed anyway. That was one little thing that happened a while ago. But he has been getting aggressively worse to the point where my mom is having to take pictures of his texts of evidence of stuff anyway, to the point recently he is left to kill himself. And every time he makes a big deal about it before he leaves to everyone, including my 8-year-old brother. Last time he was crying and he came and gave us all hugs. I'm uncomfortable with him hugging me and he knows this. But he continues to force me and he said goodbye in this really weird way. When he left I was like, damn, guess have to do damage control. So I texted him, do you want to watch a movie when we get home? And he said something like, I love you, I really do so. I thought, well, that's not good anyway. He didn't end up actually doing anything, but I couldn't help but notice I wasn't particularly upset that he was leaving. I was almost released because I feel like him almost being harassed when I'm at home. I know it's awful that I don't care if my dad commits suicide, but I don't know. When he left for collage for 6 weeks, the one my mom's paying for, he set up cameras in the living room and in my mom's room. Today he sent screenshots of me and my mom sitting in her bed eating food, and started spamming her about how she was disrespecting him by eating in his bed, which spiraled into him accusing her of cheating, which spiraled into him just spiraling. I sat down with my mom because at this point I'm not fazed at his shit, but I'm starting to not feel safe around him. We were discussing plans and I think we should move out to my grandparents immediately, but she's hesitant because if we leave there is a very high possibility he will kill himself. I know it's wrong, but I don't feel like it's our responsibility to make sure he doesn't make stupid decisions, especially since my mom has tried to get him help of multiple occasions, but he refuses to because he's stubborn. I do admit that I have zero sympathy left for him, so I don't really care what he does. It's none of my business or my fault. But my mom is such a caring person, she doesn't know what to do. Plus there is my 8-year-old brother that doesn't understand the situation and still loves his daddy even though he's scared of him. Anyway, I need advice on how to handle the situation and help my mom through this. We need to be out of this house and away from him, but if we do, he's just going to become homeless and or kill himself. He's threatening my mom and they've detached from him completely. But my brother still loves him and is blaming my mom for everything that is happening. Note, we also have 5 cats and if we go somewhere we can't take them with us, but if we leave them with his, they are probably going to die of like neglect or something. I would also like to mention how traumatizing it is to be watched constantly in your own home. Anyway, this was more of a vent post, but I really don't know how to handle the situation and I'm kind of all over the place. Advice is appreciated, thanks. It's really late, so I'm sorry if this doesn't make complete sense. I just wanted to get out of my head. Stories number 30. What hints AITA 7F might be missing about whether or not he's 29 am interested in a serious relationship. I've been in a situationship with this guy for a few months now. We see each other often, he is very affectionate, and the intercourse is great. We haven't talked about our feelings yet. I want to talk about my feelings and eventually I know I need to talk to him about this, but I'm looking for advice on what hints I might be missing about whether or not he wants a relationship. I've heard that if a guy doesn't mention a serious relationship in 3 months, it's because he's not interested. Is that true? I know he asked his ex out after 3 months. Does him not mentioning anything to me possibly mean he's only hanging out with me because he has no other options? I'll say it again. I will talk to him eventually. But first I wanted to know if I should prepare for the worst. TLDR. Before I talk to my situationship about our feelings, I want to know what hints I might be missing about whether or not he's interested in a serious relationship. Stories number 31. AITA for being pregnant when the reason why my husband and I broke up was because I didn't want children. My ex-husband and I were together from the time we were 15 to 35. The last couple of years were not happy, and the reason was because he had a change of heart about kids. When we met we were kids and never talked about children, but then we were mid-20s and both realized we actually didn't want children. Our marriage was beautiful, and when it got bad at the end we chose to end it before we started hating each other and ruining all of the good memories. Only when he moved out did I realize that we actually hadn't been in love for a while, and this in itself was heartbreaking. I never knew how heartbreaking it is to fall out of love with someone who was a big part of your life. Within a year he had met a woman and she was pregnant. He is married now with 2 children. He seems happy, and I have spent some time every now and then looking up his life online. And while neither he nor his partner are avid social media users, he seems very happy. When I saw him holding his children or playing with them, I felt immense loneliness, even if I still have my family and friends. Not only him, my siblings around me, my best friends, everyone was having children. And it made me feel more and more lonely. All the people I know have priorities now that aren't as siblings or friends anymore. I felt terrible loneliness all the time. I met my fiancé 3 years ago. I love him very deeply and I am very happy with him. I told him that I wanted a baby and he was very happy about it. Now I am 7 months pregnant, 33 weeks. My ex-husband has heard about it and he is very upset about it. He wants to meet me to talk and his sister told me that. He is angry that I lied to him, but I swear I didn't lie. I just changed. Our last period together changed me, and so are the years after the divorce. Seeing everyone happy around me and I am totally lonely. Even my divorced friends had their children to love and care about and seemed content. I never meant to hurt him. I don't even understand why he is hurt. Either because he seems to be very happy and his sister told me that he is. Stories number 32. My daughter told me she hates me. I post a lot about my situation, but I haven't been totally transparent about everything. I'm not fully processing everything, so I thought letting a bunch of strangers know is somehow therapeutic. A year and a half ago, my sister died. She was sick with pneumonia, and by the time someone realized she was sick, it was too late. She was non-verbal, and the nursing home she was at was neglecting her. It's almost too much to even try to talk about because I feel like I failed her. Last November, my Grammy died. Everything good was because of her. Then my boyfriend tried poisoning me, and all the innocent accidents I was having finally made sense. Hiding my EpiPen and changing out the condoms that I was allergic to, accidentally pushing me down the stairs, finding my emergency money and stealing it so I couldn't leave. I have many posts about him. He took a leave of absence from his job so he could literally hunt me and my daughter down. 3 separate times he found us, and each time the consequences got worse: concussion, broken nose, shattered orbital bone, broken teeth. I was going to go back to him because I couldn't afford to live without him, and I was pregnant. I get a lot of backlashes for constantly posting about what my ex did to me, but this is the only way I can talk about it. I figured as long as he didn't hurt my daughter, it was okay. Then came me. I don't know how to tell you this message on Facebook from one of his friends, Josh. He was obsessed with my daughter and would constantly tell his friends, I can't wait until she is 18. I knew I had to leave and stay gone, so I moved a few states away with her and my cat to my mom. Josh kept my ex occupied for 2 days to give me enough time to get away without worrying about being followed. 3 days ago, Josh died in a car accident. I so badly want to pay my respects at his funeral, hug his mom, and look her in her eyes and tell her that her son literally saved us. But I can't. Not only can I not afford to go, but I know that if my ex sees me, he will not hesitate to end my life. I am not exaggerating or being dramatic. There is no well, maybe he wouldn't do anything, or it's been a few months, he probably moved on, or I doubt he is going to risk his freedom killing you. He will. My aunt died on my birthday in June. My soul cat had to be put down, and I miscarried. Another friend died in August. This all sounds very extreme and like a bad country song or something, but I've been taking the lows with the hope that things will get better. Last night, my daughter wanted to use her DoorDash gift card she won from the library. I didn't know a picture was taken at delivery until I saw it. I look so bad, it took me by surprise. My arms and legs are nearly the same size. I look like a skeleton, pale and sunken, in this is the worst I've ever looked, even when I had my severe AITA. If I just never noticed or didn't care to acknowledge it. The only clothing I have is winter clothes, so I am always covered up. My underwear started getting baggy, but I thought it was because they were old and worn out. I keep coming up with an excuse every time something goes wrong, or I tell myself everything is fine, just keep going, but it isn't. Okay, a DoorDash picture is my wake-up call. How pathetic. I'm not handling things as well as I thought. To top it off, today my daughter said she hated me. She has never said anything like that before, but I get it. I uprooted her from the only life she ever knew. Her entire summer consisted of going to the library every day so I could work. I wanted her to do e-learning instead of going to school in person, because I knew there were going to be things that she wanted to do but can't. I know how selfish that is of me. Her homecoming is this weekend, and I had to tell her she can't go. I sound like a broken record, but I can't afford it. I'm starting to hate myself too, so I don't blame her. I know life will go on and she will have other dances, but trying to get her to understand is hard as hell. Living is hard as hell. Stories number 33. AITA for telling my husband that he absolutely ruined the birth of our child. Hi everyone. Our daughter is now 8 weeks old, so obviously this whole argument has gone on a very, very long time. We both have been holding grudges and neither of us think that we are wrong. My husband does not know I'm posting this, so I'm going to keep it as anonymous as possible. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, my husband started immediately telling me that I should have a home birth. I really do not know why he was so adamant on it. But he was. At first I brushed him off and told him I would think about it because I was only 6 weeks pregnant and the birth seemed so far off. Of course it came quickly and my husband would literally speak over me at doctor's appointments. When my doctor would ask if I had a birth plan. This caused a few arguments between us in those 39 weeks of pregnancy, but I never really changed my mind. Eventually my husband's mother sat down and talked to me and she told me all of the reasons why they did not want me to go to a hospital for the birth. I expressed my concerns about safety of the baby and myself, but just like my husband, she brushed me off. I ended up telling my husband that I would take myself to the hospital when it was time and that I did not want a home birth. He acted as if he didn't hear me. We met with a doula, who was also very pushy. I felt overwhelmed and not supported at all. I was 36 weeks at that point. So when I went into labor I was 39 weeks and I absolutely begged my husband to take me to the hospital. Where my doctor is, he wouldn't. He spoke to me condescendingly and called the doula instead. I was in labor for about 3 days, active labor for around the last 22 hours. I cried the whole time. I just felt something was wrong. I was scared, and oftentimes they left me alone. The doula told me that if active pushing and labor reached 24 hours, had to go into the hospital. I remember thinking that I could not decide which was worse, staying in labor for another 2 hours, or having my baby right there when she was finally out. I don't even remember wanting to hold her. I just remember crying out of relief. Obviously I am okay now, but I did not have a good experience on my first appointment after birth. With my doctor, she was very shocked I had the baby. She was concerned. I was so upset. I told my husband that he absolutely ruined it for me. I truly never want to go through that again. I hear mothers say that they forget all the pain the second they have the baby, but I didn't. I love my daughter so much, but it was horrible and it was entirely his fault. So I told him that several times. He rolls his eyes every time and tells me how mothers are strong and how I am not trying to be strong. I told him that if we ever have another baby, which he wants, that I will never do a home birth ever again. His response is, "We'll see. I cannot possibly be taught here, can I? Everyone around me is acting like this is so normal, but it's not, is it?" Stories number 34. I develop a crush on my coworker every time he gets a haircut. Hello everyone, I never post on Reddit and I thought I would share this silly confession since it's happening again. I have 20 develop a small crush on my coworker M21 every time he gets a haircut. Some background. Me and coworker, we will call Larry, started working together at the same time a few years ago. We never were really close until a few months in when we started working more similar hours due to school. Larry is an okay looking guy. He's really tall, has curly hair, thinks E3 and is very funny. We work together in our field, get along really well, talk about school, and make jokes towards each other. As of now I would consider us good friends and I genuinely enjoy his friendship. Normally Larry grows his hair out to his jaw and it looks like a literally mop. When it's this long I do not find him attractive. But he got a haircut recently where it's shorter in the sides and longer on top, and it looks really good on him. How I know I developed a small crush? Well, I find myself checking my phone more, checking the schedule to see when he works and talking to him more at work. I think it's kinda stupid of me to feel this way, considering it's just a haircut, but man, does hair really change a person. Thank you for your time. Stories number 36. AITA for telling my fiancé I don't want my Temu engagement ring. My 27F fiancé to 9M proposed to me a few weeks ago. It caught me completely by surprise, but we've been together for 3 years. And things have been going great, so I was really excited and said yes. I really liked the ring when I first saw it, and my friends and family all think it is stunning. It's an oval cut with diamonds across the band. I asked where he got it and he wouldn't tell me where, but that he got a great deal on it. I didn't think anything of it until yesterday. We were in bed, and I was asked him if it was diamond or moissanite, mainly out of curiosity. I don't have a preference, BTW. He said he didn't know and would have to look it up. When I glanced over at his phone, he was in the Temu app. I asked him if he got it from there and he didn't respond. So I asked again and he responded with something like, "Does it matter?" and left the room and ended up sleeping on the couch. I spent all night so confused. Today decided to download the app and look up my ring and I found one that looks identical. I found the exact ring and it listed at $38. I'm mad. He makes good money, $200,000 per year, and I feel like he could shelled out some money for a ring. Deader than one on Temu AITA for telling him I don't want it. After reading responses from my first post on the AITA subreddit it got taken down, I was freaking out a bit. He came home while I was FaceTiming a friend about this. I hung up with her and then talked to him for an hour or so. He apologized for sleeping on the couch and that he needed time to think. He doesn't see eye to eye with me on my concerns about the ring and says he did research and that it was highly rated. He says if the ring breaks he will replace it, but didn't say it'd be higher quality. I have people messaging me that the ring could be harmful to my health and that Temu has horrible standards for their jewelry and labor issues, so now I really don't want to wear it. He left and went to his brother's house. Usually I'd go with him, but things are just tense. AITA for telling him I still don't want it. In literally just sitting here refreshing your comments trying to figure out what to do next. He texted to let me know he plans at staying at his brother's for the weekend and is taking Friday off. It's not crazy abnormal since he's been watching football over there, but I feel like he's avoiding me now. In trying not to be pushy about the situation and I'll give him some space, but now I'm just in my head about all of it and regretting my initial reaction. It's just a dumb ring and maybe you've read into it too much. The only other time we've had an argument like this, it was resolved within a couple hours, so I'm not used to this behavior from him. Update. He came home this morning while I was in a WFH meeting. These comments made my head spin all night. I got like 3 hours of sleep, so I admit I may be in the wrong for bringing up his finances, but I did. The gold digger rumors. When we met I was making more than him and often paying for his things. His high-paying job is a recent development. I have my own money and don't need his. I asked him what was going on, if there was anything he needed to tell me, if he was testing me. I doing this well? That really set him off. What kind of person do you think I am? You think I'm a cheapskate, a liar. You obviously think really poorly of me, but still he never gave me a reason. So I asked why he was deflecting every question to victimize himself and to avoid my questions. He tried to leave a GAN. So I tried de-escalating and told him I see where he's coming from, but I need to know if he still loves me. He was immediately apologetic and still wants to get married. He said I can just pick my ring out and buy it with my own money. He said he's sick of talking about this and it's water under the bridge now. He's acting like his normal self again since this convo. I hear him out there skipping around and humming to himself, all happily, and it's actually pissing me off. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but I don't think I can handle a marriage with someone like this. Stories number 37. If I walk my daughter down the aisle at her wedding when she didn't ask my husband, her stepdad. I have 2 children with my late ex Colin. My son is now 27 and my daughter is now 25. Colin and I broke up while I was pregnant with our daughter. But he remained a part of their lives until his passing just 6 months after our daughter was born. We hadn't worked out as partners, but we got along okay, just very different people who couldn't make a relationship work and had kids very early in our relationship. Colin's family were in my children's lives from the start and remained a part of their lives long after he was gone. We never got along, but they adored my children and my children adored them in return. Their favorite thing was the week they spent with his family each summer. When my daughter was 7 and my son was 9, I met my husband. We married after 2.5 years of dating and we had already lived together for a year. My husband has no children of his own. We had none together. He was a very loving stepdad to my kids. My kids and him have a nice relationship, but neither of them call him dad and neither wanted to be adopted by him, which did come up a year into our marriage. He asked I wanted to find out what the children wanted and spoke to them. They said no, this was not something they later asked for or wanted. My daughter is getting married next year and she asked me if I would walk her down the aisle. I immediately said yes and was so moved by the fact she felt I was the best and only person for the job. She even told me how much it meant to her that I never erased her dad when we weren't even together when he passed. She said I always put them first and I had been the best mom. I cried so hard. She asked her brother to dance with her in honor of their dad. My husband was upset he wasn't asked to walk her alongside me and he was hurt that I Accepted without suggesting we should both do it. I explained that my daughter had her reasons to ask me, then he mentioned the dance in honor of her dad and how she wasn't even doing that with him. I told him I was sorry he was feeling so hurt. He told me he felt like all the little things she asked him to do were just as a way to keep the peace instead of her truly wanting him to have a role in her wedding. I'm still not sure what these things were, and I did ask, but he wasn't happy about them. He told me I should take a stand and insist he be included or I don't walk her down the aisle. I told him I wasn't willing to let my daughter down or myself. I told him it was very special to me and my daughter. He told me I'm not honoring our vows if I do this. Would if I walk her down the aisle. Stories number 38. MF27 crying after my boyfriend M25 called me a slut. How come he won't listen to me? My boyfriend is working 3 hours away. We both still go out and have fun because we trust each other. I honestly was not worried when I saw his location at a local dance spot in the town he's temporarily living in. I just got worried because the last time we were there some drunk girls bumped his pool stick mid-shot and caused him to bump the wrong pool ball into a hole. He was pissed. The girl immediately apologized and he said in a loud and stern voice, just don't do it again. Her drunk friends started talking shit. And then my best friend screamed over everyone to knock it off and she shut that whole thing down immediately. The girls apologized, offered to buy us around. And that was that. So when I see his location there, that's why I got a little worried because he got mad last time we were there. I didn't say anything, just replied to his text of whatever we were texting about and went to sleep. He called me at 2 a.m. when he was home, when that's why I said it made me feel uneasy. Seeing he was there, it all went to shit at that point. He accused me of accusing him that he was with another girl and doing something wrong. And that he didn't do anything wrong, he sought his coworker and that's why he went in. I also said I didn't know we were allowed to go to clubs. Because him and I have said before, clubs are for single people only unless you're significant. 'Tis there. So in my head that was an unspoken rule for us, but again, I wasn't worried and I waited till he got home so I could then talk about it. If I'd brought it up through text while he was there, he definitely would take it the wrong way, but I guess he took it the wrong way anyways. This argument continued to this morning, cause I couldn't get through to him the night before cause he was drunk. He just wouldn't listen to a word I said. He said, in making him feel like I don't trust him by saying that. And I repeated myself saying, I do trust you. I was not worried. I just went to sleep till 2 a.m. when you got home. Please listen when I tell you I'm not accusing you of anything. I love you. That's not what I'm trying to do. I told him you didn't even ask why I felt uneasy. You just jumped to conclusions that I'm attacking you. Then I explained what happened last time, and that's why this is where he called me a slut. Or I should say he insinuated I had slut behavior. Before I met him, my BF and I would go dancing, and when guys offered to buy us a drink, we would simply let them. When my boyfriend and I first met, I was very clear and wasn't ready for anything until 6 months after knowing each other. He then threw this in my face. He said, where I live, all these bars have dance spots in them. I told him I haven't been to any clubs here unless I'm with him. Then he started yelling that when he was pursuing me, I would go out and slut around. And my BF is the one who would always gloat about our nights out. But I have never hooked up with any man at the club. Nor did I ever take anyone home with me. My BF and I were only there to dance. I said this to him but started crying cause I was so hurt. He called me a slut. I said I needed to get off the phone because this whole time trying to be calm, talk him out of how he was feeling, reminding him over and over that I am not accusing him of anything, trying to explain that I felt uneasy probably because of my anxiety, but I chose not to react and go to sleep. He just kept saying, "I'll just not go out any more places here, close at 10 p. And that was the only place open. I just won't go anymore, even though I never said a thing. When you go out, I asked him, are you uncomfortable when I go places? He then said he doesn't give a fuck about me going out. I told him sorry for the way I said I felt uneasy. Is there a better way I should communicate it? He didn't answer that and just kept going on about how I don't trust him. I also was asking why does he think I'm attacking him? I repeated over and over that I'm not in, just trying to communicate, but he would not let up. I felt like I was talking to a wall at this point. I'm just so confused now. I am distraught. I really was so calm and trying to communicate this morning because I just started therapy yesterday. How can I get him to listen to me? Stories number 39. I'm dog sitting for my boss and her house is diabolical help. Hey y'all. I don't really post on here too much, but I love Reddit and love the podcast. I tune in every single Thursday. F23 recently got hired with a pretty large corporate company and I work within their sales division. The training process is very lengthy and thorough. So I was able to meet the HR trainer at 48 and really got to know her well. She is super active in rescues and fostering for dogs. So we immediately hit it off because I am super against breeding and all that it entails. We agreed on a lot of huge moral things and we had gotten along so well. Side note for context. I was a server for the last 4 years and made bank low-key. I had no idea exactly how much money was making, but I was never short on money. I quit that job after a heated discussion with my manager and landed this job as my mom had worked in this industry for a long time. I didn't save up nearly enough money to support myself on the training pay and how long it is taking to train. In still currently training and I got hired 3 months ago. So I am struggling financially right now. I told her that I dogs it on the side for extra cash and I enjoy it as I get paid to hang out with people's animals. She told me she had some trips coming up and that her previous dog sitter quit on her and she needed someone. I dog sat for her for the first time about a month ago. When I tell you shocked was the single expression I could use to describe her home. There are bugs everywhere, spiders, cobwebs, ass flies, mosquitoes, you name it, it probably has a home in this house. There are 3 dogs, they just pee and poop inside no problem. The house reeks of urine like the smell when it is soaked deep into your flooring. That is just the constant aroma of this house. The entire back patio and front patio covered in boxes and garbage. Dust and dirt everywhere. Every dish I've tried to use is dirty. The fridge disgusting. There is caked on food and dry. Liquid spills throughout the fridge, not to mention everything is destroyed. These dogs have chewed huge holes into the walls and talking all the way to the brick. Think, a hole the size of one of those blow-up exercise bowls and you can see the drywall, the insulation and then the brick. Upon my first job the dogs demolished 3 dog beds, a USB flash drive, a pair of VR goggles to phone chargers for bathroom and kitchen floor mats, a decorative pillow towels, a pair of flip-flops and multiple toas. Upon my second job the dogs destroyed the entire living room rug, another dog bed, 2 of her work uniforms, her work name tag, another USB cord of some sort and multiple pieces of garbage they could get to. I also forgot to close the bedroom door one day. The puppy peed on the bed this time around. I am currently on day 4 so far. They have annihilated yet another dog bed, a blanket, her name tag, lanyard, another pair of shoes and the living room rug again. One of them had diarrhea, so I just spent over an hour cleaning that up and realized that there is hard poop and urine caked into the floor. I scrubbed the best I could and there is still poop caked onto the floor. It's disgusting. Meanwhile, a family of daddy long legs observed me from their cozy home in the corner of the **sking doorway. Parts of the hardwood tile is warped from tea being left. The hall closets are caked with dust and trash. I have rallied up 16 mosquito bites since being here. Has anyone ever experienced this? What do? I am having the hardest time of my life staying here. I get headaches from the urine smell and I have gross bug bites all over my body that itch all day at work. Sleeping like crap and work 7 days a week, 3 of those for our 10.5-hour days, the rest are 8 hours minimum. I also live very close to my work, like 10 to 12 minutes. Driving. Her house is 35 minutes away from my work. I can't sleep and I have to drive further to get to work and to get back here at night. I am exhausted and I have 8 more nights of this. I talked to my mom and she said I need to speak up as she doesn't think $100 a day is enough for how rough this job has been. Also, I am a bit worried about her. Could this be a sign that something is wrong? Is she okay? I just can't wrap my head around how people live like this. Sorry this is long. I literally started crying when I was scrubbing the poop off the floor and I just don't even know what to do. Side note, I literally ran out of damn near all the cleaning supplies she has here. If they keep pooping and peeing inside, I'm literally going to have to just leave it on the floor, which is going to make the smell so much stronger. Please help. Stories number 40. AITA for refusing to wear a skimpy mate outfit to an exclusive party my friend got invited to. So I 2F live with my friend to 2F and she recently met a guy at a beach party. She's pretty much obsessed with him because he comes from a well-known well-off family in the area and has a certain level of status associated with him. She told me they were sort of dating and obviously have been supportive throughout it all as a friend. However, I've met him a few times and I don't exactly hold favorable opinions of him. I didn't tell my friend because I wasn't fully sure of my views yet and I didn't want to be negative. Anyway, he's throwing a party soon and invited my friend. He asked her to bring me along too. He said it was a theme party and that everyone would be assigned a character style to wear. He sent my friend a picture of our outfits to skimpy as hell made costumes sprawled on a bed. I immediately told her that I wouldn't be wearing that shit and especially not to a party with a bunch of strangers. Initially she thought I was kidding but then understood that I'm serious. She said that wearing these fits isn't a big deal at all and that I need to stop being so prudish and serious. I told her that it is very humiliating that this guy thinks it's perfectly fine to request to women to wear that to his party. Like you're seriously asking to girls who are clearly not as rich as you to dress up as maids to your party. I asked her if she seriously sees nothing wrong with it and she said no. She explained that he just has a weird taste and that it might be a weird rich people thing. I told her again that I will not be wearing some skimpy ass maid costume. Not only is it embarrassing, it is especially disrespectful to me because I don't have any sort of meaningful relationship with the guy and yet he thought it's appropriate to include me in this request. I told her that I won't be wearing the clothes, won't be going to the party, and will from now on avoid her new BF altogether. We had a massive argument and she said that I'm lame, boring and not a supportive friend. She said that instead of helping her I'm ruining everything and being a killjoy. When she fed back to the guy that I'm refusing to participate, he even asked her if getting paid for it would change my mind. That made it even worse. Apparently he told her that I have the right attitude, which makes no sense as I've been combative all this time, and that his friends will love to get to know me. The fuck, him just getting angry typing this. I was pretty upset and told my dad about the situation. The party is tomorrow night and my friend decided to go alone. And she's not really talking to me, or am I the asshole? Or is she? I feel strangely very guilty even though I'm standing up for my boundaries. Stories number 41. AITA for telling my husband I will no longer be sharing photos and videos with him of our baby's precious first moments. I apologize in advance if this has any grammar or spelling issues or if it appears as a wall of text. I am typing this using my phone. My husband and I have been married for 5 years. We have 3 amazing kids together, 12, 5 and 8 months old. Our 12-year-old is from a previous relationship. With that being said, let's get to the drama. My husband has gone and found himself a side piece. We had some ups and downs and he would constantly talk to other women, so in my mental distress he agreed to an open marriage. He never got serious with them, or they disappear after they found out about his toxic behavior. Recently he found someone who is young, damaged, and apparently like me before the kids. All of that is upsetting, but whatever. He met this girl 2 months ago and has spent every extra dime and all of his time with her. At this point he only comes home to sleep and eat. So I told him that if he can't spend time at home he is choosing her over his kids. He tells me that's not true and that he would never abandon his children. I guess there are multiple definitions of abandonment, so that's also whatever. Yesterday I took pictures of our baby doing adorable things and shared them with the family. He complained, saying I should have sent one to him. I said that if he decided to be with her instead of spending time with his kids, that was his problem. He said that was kind of a Becky thing to do and that I'm just being in a dollar hole. I don't see it that way. If you live with your kids and you don't spend time with them, that's your problem, not mine. If he's at work when our kid does something, sure, I'll share the moment with him. However, he's never home. If he's choosing to be with her every day and is never home, then why should I share my special moments of my kids with him? No, I am not over-exaggerating the situation. He gets up at 9 a.m., goes for his walk or whatever exercises he does to get in shape. Then he leaves the house and goes to her place. He doesn't work until after 1 p.m. and should be home around 1 a.m., but he doesn't. He's not home until almost 3 a.m. On weekends it's the same, out at 9 a.m. and not back until 3 a.m. Once in a while he's home for like an hour maybe. But in the last 2 months this is how it's been. So I told him to start spending time with his kids. or whatever he missed because he was with her is his own consequence. So you tell me, am I in the wrong for not sharing the moments he missed with him?